We often get the question, how do I remove student loans from my credit report? People ask this question from a couple of different angles, but ultimately what needs to be known is being an account holder or a cosigner of student loans inevitably affects your credit, for better or for worse. In this video, we will discuss how student loans affect your credit and what to do if you have inaccurate or negative information about student loans on your credit report. So let's start by talking about how student loans affect your credit. Student loans are considered an installment loan on your credit report, which means you make payments over a specified period of time until the loan is paid off, or until the loans are forgiven. Installment loans show that you can pay back borrowed money consistently over time. Other examples of installment debt are mortgages, auto loans, and personal loans. The biggest impact on your credit for installment loans is your payment history. Now, payment history is 35% of what makes up your credit score. So making sure that student loan payments are on time, in full, is key to maintaining a healthy credit score for student loan borrowers. Now, credit scoring systems recognize that the separate loan accounts are of the same type and effectively count them as one loan when calculating a score. Credit scores acknowledge that student loans are unique and they treat them differently in the calculation. So let's talk a little bit about how student loans go on and off a credit report. First, when you accept or co-sign for a student loan, it can begin to reflect on your credit report with the three major credit bureaus. Those are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. They'll show up at any time. Many consumers believe that credit bureaus like Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian are somehow owned or otherwise managed and controlled by the federal government. But in fact, they aren't. At a fundamental level, all credit bureaus operate as private, for-profit companies. Really important thing that a lot of people don't know. Another important point is that student loans can be transferred from one lender to another either by you via consolidation or by refinancing or by the Department of Education. So if your loans are sold or transferred to another creditor, the new lender will also report to the credit bureaus. So you might see, well actually you probably will see both the original loans and the new loans on your credit report. The original loans will have an updated status to show that they are paid, or they'll even be marked as transferred, but the payment history will remain on your report for 7 years. Now this is an important note. Payment history will remain on your credit report for up to 7 years, even after it's paid or settled in collections. So be mindful that just because you've got it taken care of doesn't mean that it goes away. For accounts that are paid off, that are never delinquent, the 7 years starts on the day that you settle that account. If the account was delinquent or in default and has a history of late payments, the date it first became delinquent is the starting date for the 7 years. These are important things to think about as you're making plans for your future. Next, let's discuss how to find out what's on your credit report. The best way to find out exactly what's on your credit report would be to download your free credit report from annualcreditreport.com. It is the only source for your reports that is authorized by federal law. While authorized by federal law, this website doesn't give you your credit score for free, so they still want to make a buck. But most banks and credit card companies will give you your credit score if you are a customer of that company. So there's a way to get your score, but there's another way to get your actual report. And you can request a free report every 12 months from each agency. So you don't have to pull them all at one time. And I typically recommend that you stagger them throughout the year so that you always have a free one available so that you can monitor your credit more frequently. So maybe you do one and then 4 months later a next, and then 4 months later the third, and then your clock has started all over again, so you can continue to do that every 4 months. Now, it is important to know that there might be slight differences in your credit score and or your credit report from each of those 3 credit reporting bureaus. They all do it a little bit differently. And if you find inaccurate information on any of your credit reports, something such as a missed payment that could hurt your credit score, there is some recourse. So let's talk about the credit report dispute versus the Goodwill letter. Disputing information on your credit report is done through the 3 major bureaus claiming that something on your report is materially incorrect. If you want more information on this, check out our blog in the description to see examples of things you could dispute on your credit. Now, a Goodwill letter is where you're asking a creditor to remove a negative mark on your credit report due to your own error, such as a technical error, personal emergency, financial hardship, an address change, or maybe a miscommunication with your creditor. Goodwill letters aren't an official tactic, and they're not actively publicized as a viable option by the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. Now, this also means that creditors aren't required to consider your request or to even respond to you, but it never hurts to ask. Okay, so let's talk about how to dispute student loans. The first thing you can do is write to the credit report company, and we've even included a sample dispute letter in a blog, and we put that in the description below. Next, you need to just wait for a response. Credit reporting companies must investigate the items in question. Generally, it's going to be within 30 days, and the credit reporting companies forward all relevant data you provided about the inaccuracy to the organization that provided the information. So it's moving from the company over to the organization that's in dispute. Then you want to contact the provider or student loan servicer and tell the information provider, so that is the person, the company, or the organization that provides information about you to a credit reporting company, in writing that you disputed an item in your credit report. Please beware of the various companies that fix your credit, because there are a lot of scams associated with credit repair, and the very few that can actually help that do exist are gonna do something similar to the disputing process that I just described. Now, let's talk about how to write a Goodwill letter to your lender. If you have a missed or late payment reflecting on your credit you'd like to be removed, the first step is to communicate with your lender about getting into good standing. Once that's done, ask your lender for a Goodwill adjustment to remove the negative reporting from your credit reports via phone with a customer service representative. If that doesn't go far, write your Goodwill letter via snail mail or email to the customer support department for your lender. Now, let me reiterate that creditors aren't required to consider your request. You might not even get a response, even if they do adjust it for you. So they might do what you ask and not even tell you about it. If you haven't gotten a response or noticed a change on your credit report within a month or two, you can follow up by phone, email, or snail mail. That about wraps it up for today. If you need help catching up on your student loan payments and your student loan debt feels overwhelming, just know that at Student Loan Planner, we can help. Watch our next video on why having a student loan plan matters.